What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, November 12th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 13:40 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Venezuela and from here in the US. So right now, this afternoon, we have US nuclear forces on very high alert. What you're looking at here is a flight tracker, and we can see a U.S. Navy sub-Hunter aircraft flying up and down the eastern United States along the east coast, and it was up here near Maine and Cape Cod and off the coast of Long Island and New Jersey. This is very strange for a sub-Hunter to be deployed from Jacksonville, which is their home base, and then to fly straight up to New England and then come back down. I want to say that there might be some kind of Russian sub here off of New England, but we also have a presidential doomsday plane over Kansas right now. This is a plane used to evacuate the president during a nuclear war or World War III. And this plane can basically stay airborne for extended periods of time, and it's EMP proof, and the president can command the entire U.S. nuclear arsenal from the air. We also have a missile detecting and tracking plane over North Dakota, and then we also have a high priority reconnaissance plane over Arkansas. Now these planes send intelligence directly to the president and the top generals, and this missile detecting and tracking plane can track the trajectory of missiles. Okay, so something is going on, guys. I don't know what, but we've heard some very unusual radio signals over the last 24 to 48 hours. There was this very strange classified, highly secret spy signal sent out by Western intelligence yesterday, and it was audible across all of Europe. So here's an example of this spy signal, and it took up a lot of bandwidth. That's how we know it's not just some kind of normal fax transmission or something like that. And it was only audible in Europe, so let me play this clip for you. This was from the Azores. So that weird clapping noise, and then here we have in the Netherlands, really loud. And then here we have Poland. So this was yesterday afternoon, very, very concerning. And also we had a B-52 do a big flight to southern Finland and the Baltics last night. It did some kind of a deterrence patrol. And right now we have two sub-hunters in the Baltic Sea, one off the coast of Kaliningrad and then one near the Gotland Island. And what's very unusual is this one right here off of the Gotland Island doing hundreds of low loops, flying really low. And then here's another one off of Kaliningrad. So something major is going on here in the Baltic Sea for there to be two U.S. Navy sub-hunters airborne at the same time, and one of them flying really low, doing hundreds of loops. Look at this. Flying only at 2,000 feet, guys. That is really low for a plane, okay? And then last night we had this B-52 fly what appears to be a deterrence patrol all the way to Finland. It took off from Meran Air Base in Spain. It went up to the North Sea, got aerially refueled in the North Sea. Then it flew towards Finland. right here, and then it went down to Estonia, and then it was looping over Estonia for a while. Now, at the same time, we also had a high priority recon plane flying in southern Finland doing multiple loops. And this is a combat sentinel aircraft that can send intelligence directly to the president and the top generals, okay? And also we had a NATO AWACS plane in the same area as the B-52 flying right near the Russian border here in Estonia. So this is absolutely huge news. And the leader of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, ordered full-scale mobilization of the Venezuelan military yesterday by land, sea, and air. Maduro ordered the immediate activation of the integral defense commands in Venezuela after enacting the law of the Command for the Integral Defense of the Nation. So this is basically a full-scale military call-up, okay? Full scale. He's preparing for war, okay? Integral Defense Commands, okay? So this is it, guys. We're going to be reading about strikes and hearing about strikes on Venezuela very, very soon. Could be in the coming days. It's hard for me to predict exactly when, especially with Trump. Trump is very unpredictable. He changes his mind 100 times a day. But I don't think it's going to be too much longer. The Gerald Ford, the largest aircraft carrier in the U.S. military, has arrived in the Caribbean, and we have over 1,000 guided missiles deployed to the Caribbean. Okay, you don't need 1,000 guided missiles to deal with some drug cartels, okay? That's just excessive firepower that you would only need if you're conducting some kind of major air campaign, okay? Venezuela says it is launching a massive mobilization of military personnel, weapons, and equipment in response to the buildup of U.S. warships and troops in the Caribbean Sea. Land, air, naval, and reserve forces will carry out exercises through Wednesday, according to Defense Minister Pedrino Lopez, who described the deployment as a response to the imperialist threat posed by the U.S. buildup. In addition to regular military units, the exercises will involve the Bolivarian militia, a reserve force made up of civilians that was created by the late President Hugo Chavez and is named after Simon Bolivar. And Reuters reports that Venezuela has begun distributing old Russian weapons to civilians in preparation for a possible guerrilla war against the U.S. According to sources, the government is forming self-defense units in case of an American invasion. Wow, so civilians are being handed weapons. All branches of the military are being called up. It's about to go down. And in a Capitol Hill briefing last month, 2 senior U.S. Special Operations officers reportedly couldn't explain why the Trump administration deployed so many powerful military assets in the Caribbean to destroy small boats, sources familiar with the matter said. And Russia is ready to discuss with the U.S. the resumption of preparations for a meeting between Putin and Trump. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said. Lavrov also called the Ukrainian president a quote-unquote Nazi. I'm not going to say the word, but you know what I mean. And warned that if any nuclear power conducts nuclear tests, Russia will do the same. Okay, and if you remember last week, Putin ordered his military to make preparations for nuclear tests. Okay, so this is very serious, guys. We're back in the 1950s, early Cold War days. That's how bad it is. And the U.S. has frozen talks with Russia on easing tensions and restoring full diplomatic relations. Officials from the U.S. Embassy in Moscow told Russian media. Okay, and we know that Trump put those crippling sanctions on the Russian oil companies, Lukoil, which is the largest oil company in Russia, and also Gazprom, which is the largest gas company in Russia, okay? And Ukrainian medics are reporting cases of gas gangrene, a condition once closely associated with the trenches of the First World War and long thought to have been eradicated in Europe. The bacterial infection, which destroys muscle tissue, is spreading at a rapid pace and has made a resurgence in Ukraine due to the harsh realities of modern trench warfare. So, very concerning, guys. And the UK has stopped sharing intelligence with the US on vessels suspected of drug trafficking in the Caribbean, as it does not want to be complicit in American strikes. For years, Britain had assisted the U.S. in identifying such ships for interception by the Coast Guard. However, according to CNN, London halted the exchange of this intelligence over a month ago after British officials concluded that U.S. strikes on the vessels may violate international law. And the president of Czechia, Petr Pavel, said NATO must respond with force to Russian provocations involving drones and aircraft. So he's basically saying that NATO has to shoot down Russian fighter jets and drones that fly into NATO airspace. And the Swedish defense minister said Northern Europe and the Baltics must act as one operational zone against Russian threats. And France will help the Palestinian Authority draft a constitution for a future Palestinian state, President Macron said after meeting with Mahmoud Abbas. Wow, that is crazy. Macron is nuts. And the Royal Marines of Great Britain conducted large-scale exercises on boarding ships and oil and gas platforms near the Russian coast. Interesting. So it sounds like they're preparing to seize Russian oil and gas platforms and Russian tankers. And the president of Belarus, Lukashenko, ordered his foreign ministry to start talks with Lithuania on reopening the border. Interesting. So Lithuania closed their border with Belarus to all semi-trucks and rail freight. Okay, and that's critical for Russia more so than Belarus, but also Belarus. All right, but Russia uses that corridor, the Suwalki Gap. They go through Belarus, then Lithuania, and then into Kaliningrad to move goods. All right. And Germany will be increasing aid to Ukraine, another $11.5 billion for weapons and air defense. And Russia captured 3 settlements in the Zaporizhia Oblast yesterday, while Ukraine was forced to retreat from 5 settlements in that area. And the Russians did enter the outskirts of the critical city of Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region. And 5 Indian oil refiners haven't placed orders for Russian oil for the next month. So looks like Trump's threat of sanctions has worked. The Indians are not going to be buying Russian oil. So that's going to really hurt the Russian war machine. And the Serbian president, Alexander Vučić, believes that European countries are preparing for a possible military conflict with Russia. He said, "As I analyze the facts, I come to the conclusion that a war between Europe and Russia is becoming increasingly apparent. This is not empty talk. Everyone is preparing for it." And the Danish Ministry of Defense has announced the strengthening of their air defenses. They will acquire 2 NASAMS batteries, 2 IRIS-T batteries, 2 Mica batteries, and 2 SAMP-T batteries. Now, what's interesting about this is those are all air defenses for short range. They're considered like SHORAD or short-range air defense. They're not like Patriot missiles, which are built to shoot down Scuds and short-range ballistic missiles like the Iskanders in Ukraine. These are special short-range air defenses used to shoot down drones in particular and low-flying objects like helicopters, cruise missiles. Okay, so it sounds like they want better defense against drones, all right? But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with a live stream. And until then, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to go to preparewithnyprepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. They're selling their 3-month emergency food supply for just $600, so that's $100 off the normal price. And this is 3 months of food at 2,000 calories per day, has a shelf life of up to 25 years, and all of this is packed into 6 rugged water-resistant buckets, and free shipping is included. And they're also offering a disaster replacement warranty, so if your food supply gets destroyed by a natural disaster, they'll replace it for you with no charge. And they also will provide you with free survival books and information, including a natural disaster field guide, a survival Bible digital copy. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get $100 off the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply, and the link is in the description below this video.